Hi, folks. I want to take some time to unpack a little bit about believing versus unbelieving. Now, we've been taking a lot of time to develop the idea of the exalted soul, and it has been taking time to get people to kind of come on board to understand that there's a part of you, the mind, the will, the emotions that is there, that is been exalted. It's been placed in a position of great esteem. It's what gives us our decider. It's what gives us the ability to make decisions. And I said that it can develop into something very bad, and it has. It's been exalted. And it actually works against the spirit. And I want to use Mark chapter 9 to kind of show you a picture of that and set the scene of showing you how believing in the soul never really produces what we want it to produce, and actually it is classified as unbelief. And I'm going to show that to you. But the scene is simply this. On top of this mountain, Jesus has taken three disciples, and we see this magnificent setting where something happens. Jesus is transfigured. He starts to glow. Something in him comes to the surface, and he's drastically altered. And I want to shift to this. I want to show you how the exalted soul is just the knee-jerk reaction. It is the normal thing that initially the devil uses to say, interpret everything through your soul. Don't let it become a spiritual connection. He's desperate to get people to never abandon strategies, planning, cognitive thought processes, and developing strategies and steps so that we never trust. We never make the shift from believing in our mind to trusting in our heart. And here you see Peter. He stands out and he sees this magnificent exchange between heaven and Jesus. And here he sees this, and here's what he decides. It is good for us to be here. This is a great day. Here's what we need to do. Here's the actions we need to take, the strategies. We need to build 3 tabernacles, one for Moses, Elijah, and you just see him engaging in this. And all of a sudden, here comes God, and this voice says, just stops him dead in his tracks. And it's as if God says, that's the exalted soul right there. You see something spiritual, you interpret it with the soul, and you simply want to contain it. I want to figure out how I can control it. I don't want to just encounter it. I don't want it to become something that's just living. I want to wrap my arms around it and control it. And then here that voice simply says this is my son, listen to him. Now, I want you to keep running that through your mind, because the Bible in Mark 9 changes the scenes at the bottom of the mountain. But it never abandons that exalted soul and the manifestation of what's going on, because at the bottom of the mountain, Jesus comes up to a crowd and there's great debate going on. And it's important to grab that one of the people in the debate is scribes. And the debate is simply the exalted soul's inability to function in a spiritual capacity. There is a need. A person is engulfed with a bad spirit, and there's a need to cast him out. That's a spiritual thing, and it needs a spiritual fix. And here is the bankruptcy of the exalted soul in living color. And it's the scribes that are debating with them. And you can just see them. The scribes are the thinkers of the day. They're the strategists. They're the ones that copy the Bible. They're the ones that say, this is what it says. And it's no different than churches today that want you to approach this book with the exact same mindset as a book you would approach to be further educated. The Bible is not a book of education. It doesn't have an application to keeping the soul in charge. It is a spiritual book that is developing the spiritual component of you that rises up to the lead place in your life, to where you no longer are driven by every knee-jerk reaction that the mind just throws at you. It is a book that strengthens the spirit man. And here they are sitting there, and you can just hear them. Well, it says it here in Joel, and Leviticus says that, and here is a spiritual need, and they are sitting there debating doctrine. That's what I get the picture of. It is a bankrupt. It has no application in the world right now as we live in it. Needs spiritual people to address spiritual things. So why this disconnect? Well, the Father actually says it for us. He says, I brought a spiritual need to you, to your church, Jesus. I'm paraphrasing, of course. And they couldn't cast him out. And Jesus says, you are faithless. Now I want to hold on to that just for a minute, because faithless is people that never leaves the faith, the belief never leaves here and makes it to here. In my book, The Exalted Soul, I wrote a chapter about spit that out. And I talked about the difference and distinction of it and used an apple for an illustration where I said, you know, the mind looks at the apple and says, wow, it looks good. It's red, it's glistening, it's firm, I can feel it with my hand. Everything checks out so far. So you put it to your mouth and you bite it, and all of a sudden now your taste is involved, and you feel that you taste the sweetness, and you're chewing it. The whole time you're chewing it, it's rolling around in there, and you're like, man, this is pretty good. It checks out. I see no worms. It's definitely got everything that I thought it would be. But now comes the big moment when faith says, well, if you believe that, then swallow it. Act on it. Let me see if you swallow it. Because the true test is if you act on what you think. It's one thing to sit there and say, I believe in Jesus. It's a totally other thing to say, I believe that I need God to direct me to becoming a spiritual person instead of just studying this word for face value. God says, you know, you only believe really what you do. I heard Pastor Morris once say you only believe the parts of the Bible you do. If you don't believe in tithing, you simply won't do it. Well, I understand his meaning behind that. You know, it's kind of like your throat is the faith mechanism that says, okay, just swallow it. Well, when Jesus says to them, your faith isn't there, it never left here, and the devil knows it. He wants to keep you captured by the exalted soul. So now, here he goes, the conversation is moved to the back room where the private meeting is, and that's where in verse 28, it says he came to him in the house, and the disciples asked him privately. He said, why couldn't we cast it out? Now listen to this. He said to them, this kind comes out by nothing but prayer and fasting. Prayer. Instead of going to God saying, what shall I do? Where do I go? You know, instead of asking soul-driven questions to God, I want you to inform me of things I need to actually do, which there isn't. I'm not saying that there's never a need for that. But instead, I think the right questions are, who do I need to become in Christ so that I am a spiritual being? What have you deposited in the realm of Christ that needs to become part of my new nature so that I am in this capacity to stay in tune with you all the time in harmony? And fasting simply is a means of saying, I want to suppress this knee-jerk reaction of the flesh. You know, my belly's growling. Oh, I need to go get something to eat. Oh, I'm thirsty. Oh, I gotta go get something to drink. I'm tired. Man, go to bed. You know, as soon as that symptom hits the body, the exalted soul wants you to always take action. Isn't that what Peter did on top of the mountain? Well, there's something going on. Hey, let's build a couple tabernacles. And this is what I'm saying is the reason for the powerlessness. It is a belief that is soul-driven, never gets into the heart through trust, through faith, never becomes the new nature. And that's what Jesus is pointing out. And that's what the difference is in exalted soul belief versus trusting faith in the Spirit that actually is the greatest fear of the enemy. I'm telling you, friends, to abandon this exalted soul and even push back against it a little at a time is really what is at stake here. And I hope this helps you, and I'm going to keep putting videos out. Hey, there's my website. Like I said, please download that new book, The Exalted Self. I went through a lot to get it as concise. I think it's like 40, 50 pages. I made it free as a download. If you want a hard copy, you can get it on Amazon.com. It's like $5 for that book. I can't give it away for free because they won't just print it for nothing. But I did make a PDF download for free. Give it out to a lot of people. It is absolutely pivotal. It's powerful to help people battling this thing of pornography. Okay? God bless you. Look forward to the next video.